Good evening. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting for Tuesday evening, May 16th. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for May 3rd.
May 4th.
May 4th, excuse me. Would either of my colleagues like to make a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Public comment? Okay, public hearing on the request of Aquarion to install and maintain approximately 475 feet of 8-inch ductile iron water main in Surry Road. Hi, Steve, come on up.
Thank you.
Hi, Harry.
Aye.
Could you describe what's in front of us tonight, please?
Yes, let me pass out a plan if that helps.
I think we have those actually in our packet.
Plans in our packet.
Would anyone in the audience like to see a water main plan of the project? No? All set? Okay. Thank you. So I'm Steve Olson with Aquarion Water Company. We are proposing to replace 475 feet of existing 2-inch main that's over 100 years old with new 8-inch ductile iron main that will result in 8 new, or relaying 8 services, so 8 customers will benefit from this. And we're coordinating the project with the DPW paving program. So we're trying to get ahead of that so that, you know, if we have a problem later on, we're not gonna mess up a newly paved road. So we wanna get ahead and be proactive.
Steve, what's the anticipated timing of this work?
If approved tonight, our contractor is ready to mobilize Monday, the 22nd, and it will take 3 to 4 weeks to complete.
Okay. Questions from my colleagues?
Tying into Croydon?
Yes, yes. Croydon to Martins Lane.
Karen?
Yeah, so you answered my first question, which was coordination with the DPW paving program. When is this road scheduled to be repaved?
Well, they're going to be reconstructed. We're anticipating a starting date of somewhere around the second week of July.
Okay, so this will fit in before that, obviously.
Should.
And is there anything else, I guess, in that roadway, now that we're opening it up? Is there anything else there, that any gas lines, anything like that?
The gas mains are being replaced as we speak. In fact, the gas mains are nearly completed to be replaced. Now they have 38 services they have to replace. And if things go well, another 3 or 4 weeks they'll be out of there.
Okay, and so they complete their work and then you come in after that?
Well, they'll be in there simultaneously for a while.
Okay.
So the first, on the 22nd, the first week and a half, 2 weeks, we'll be setting up some bypass piping. We have to provide temporary water to the households, so we won't be in the road until probably, 2 weeks after that.
Okay, and so my second question revolved around abutters. So I saw everybody got notice of this. Have you heard any complaints or concerns from the neighbors on?
We got a call from one woman on Surry Road, Janice, I forget her last name. We are coordinating a neighborhood meeting tomorrow night at 7 o'clock in the neighborhood. And I have spoke with the police chief about his concerns about parking during construction. So we want to make sure we address that during the pre-construction meeting and throughout the project.
Okay, and when you're providing temporary water, is there any sort of fire safety risk? Is there different pressure with temporary water, or?
It will be just as good, if not better, as the existing water service.
Okay.
Yes.
And we're going from 2 inches to 8 inches.
Yes.
We're a little out of date.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, well, I guess, my one concern, right, would have been nice to have the abutter meeting before.
Well, we wanted to meet after it got approved to say that we're going to do it. And I guess we could have said we're proposing to do it, and then, but we didn't want to get
Yeah,
it
I hear
proposed and
you.
have it
Yeah.
denied.
Yeah. No,
Not
I
that
hear
it
you.
would be, but
Yeah,
you never know.
A little bit of a chicken and an
Yeah,
egg.
didn't want to be presumptuous.
A little bit of a chicken egg. Okay.
Right.
I've received several calls from a number of neighbors down there, regarding the project, and, I mean, they're being inconvenienced to some extent down there because of all the construction going on. They're looking for a closure date, but unfortunately, that won't be the end of, probably the end of August, when everything's all said and done with, but I've informed them of all the replacement, the need for it, for both gas and water, so I've informed a good deal of them so far.
Okay.
So Harry, and we'll open it up in a moment if anybody from the public wishes to make a comment, but it sounds from what you're saying as if the calls that you've got have to do with sort of during the construction period?
Well, with the gas work going on now, I mean, they've had 2 crews down there, if they know the urgency to get that completed before we start road construction. There is a lot of rock down there, ledge. So far, it hasn't been, you know, a big detour in their work schedule, but they've managed to get through most of it. But
So
the
it's a lot
residents
of
have been.
construction over a prolonged period of
Yes.
time is kind of what I'm hearing?
Yeah, but the residents have been, I know most of them have been really anticipating those roads being reconstructed because it's been deferred for like 3 years now, that neighborhood. So we look like we'll be on schedule to wrap that up this summer. And then like I told them, you don't see us for another 30 years.
You're going to see a lot of us for this next several months. It's just it's just a tight area to get it done, I think, right? So the inconvenience is, it's a narrow roadway.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Anybody from the audience like to question or comment? Could you please come up to the microphone and identify yourself, please?
Maggie Merrill, 147 Martins Lane, is that enough?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so you said you were going to have to do 8, but I count 9 little hookups. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then I'm just curious, why am I not one of your hookups?
Because you're already on an 8-inch main, you're at 147?
Yep,
Yeah.
I'm
so
all
you-
set then?
Yes, you
Okay,
are.
Good. And then the other thing is this bypass,
Yes.
looks like it goes behind the fence there over
Yes.
along World's End.
There-
What
there's a-
physically is that? Is that a pipe that
It's,
you can see?
Yes, it'll be above ground,
Yeah.
4-inch in diameter, most likely blue or black piping. And so they're gonna set it up, and then that'll be live, and then we're gonna have temporary connections to those houses in the back. Basically, all the houses.
So
to
you're just going to kind of go through the fences and that?
Go,
what-
go
you'll-
through the yards and connect to their outside spigot and take off the water meter.
Okay, because there's
to
a fence
provide-
along there, you know?
Yep.
That you'll have to kind of go through.
Yep,
Okay.
we'll have our contractor manage
That.
that, yep.
All right, and then there has been a discussion amongst the neighbors along here about taking advantage of the fact that gas lines coming in. I don't know the specifics of it, but I know that they've been talking about it. Is that something that
Harry, maybe you could speak to the gas lines?
There's no gas lines on Surry Road.
no, there aren't, but the concept is, I think folks have been talking to somebody about the possibility of actually taking advantage of all the construction and putting in a gas line, and I know that there's an individual expense to that.
Well, no one's notified me, and the gas company would, inform me immediately if that was the case.
Okay,
So, I mean, there's nothing in the works as of right now.
that you know of, okay. All right.
I mean, the issue is, if we don't do it now, we
Well,
don't
the
do
other-
it, right, for a long
For a
time.
while.
Yeah.
And also, the issue is, can it be done at this, with this time frame that you've
Yeah,
got?
I wouldn't see any problem with doing it, over the next 2 or 3 weeks.
So Harry, just so that Ms. Merrill can maybe communicate this back, so what would it be the responsibility of the homeowners to contact National Grid
That's
to
correct.
request the possibility of establishing gas service at these addresses? Because National Grid is actually the, homeowners are to contact National Grid, then there's a process where National Grid reaches out to the town.
If we had a resident that was looking into extending the gas main on Turkey Hill Lane, so we just been through this. As soon as the gas company has a word there's an interest, they'll notify me. And then we'll try to expedite the grant location. They can't install that without a grant location being awarded by the Board of Selectmen. So they get right on the horn to me and say, we get us, connect the dots to X, Y, and Z, and we're good to go. So, gas company's the first one we have to notify, and they'll expedite the main extension at my request.
And are you going to be at that abutters meeting, or is it just an Aquarion? Just Aquarion?
This is the first I've heard about it. I wasn't
Just
planning
Aquarion.
on it.
Welcome to come.
I don't know.
Well,
Get a cup of coffee or a bottle of water or something. Okay, so I understand it, that I've heard some rumors about someone's been in touch with National Grid. I will echo that tomorrow to say you better hurry up and get it going and find out what has to happen, because National Grid has to talk to you about coordinating.
That's correct.
That's correct.
You know, with these processes, it's really, while the town can work on things, it's the responsibility of the homeowner to initiate that contact because, for lots of different reasons. So
I
it
understand.
may be a little tight, but it's better that we're having this conversation now and not a month from now.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for coming in and raising the questions.
It's nice to see Ms. Johnson there at the desk.
thank you. Thank you, Maggie.
Are there any other questions from the audience? Okay. Paul or Karen, would either of you make a motion?
Sure. I'll move to approve the request of Aquarion Water Company to install and maintain approximately 475 feet of 8-inch ductile iron water main in Surry Road. This water main will originate from the intersection with Croydon Road and continue under the paved surface of Surry Road for the entire length to completion at the intersection with Martin's Lane. This water main will replace an existing 2-inch steel undersized main, and this approval is subject to the stipulation of the Department of Public Works, including a letter dated April 11, 2017.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you and welcome,
Thanks for coming
Karen.
in. Thank you.
Steve, just, you folks are always very good about leaving a site the way you found it, but as Ms. Merrill mentioned with the fence, I would just ask that the crews pay particular attention to make sure that
Yes.
that nothing is disturbed or, especially the fence.
Yes, message received. Could I take a moment and share some good news with the Board of Selectmen? Not,
Mr. Mayo, is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
As long as
thank
we
you.
don't discuss it.
just to make sure you're aware, I just want to let you know that for the third time in 4 years, Aquarion won an Outstanding Performance Award with the Department of Environmental Protection in 2016. So we got the award last week, and we're pleased to let you know.
Congratulations and
Thank you very much.
right,
Thanks for
thank
coming
you.
in.
Yep.
Okay, next on the agenda is to approve the sale and issuance of bonds, and we have Sue Nickerson and Jean Montgomery.
No, we're going to sit together.
You seem very far away over there.
That says Ted, I don't know. I noticed that from that direction.
Do you want me to tee this one up, or?
Sure.
We would, actually, we're going to have Karen came to our bid opening the other day, so. if you want
Okay.
to start us off.
So it was like right from the frying pan to the fire. One of my first tasks was to meet with Jean Montgomery and Sue Nickerson, as well as bond counsel Rick Manley, and we had and Rick Nolan, the assessor, and Janet Morley and Richard Totora, who are our financial advisors. And we put out to bid a little over $10 million of short-term notes. You might recall from Advisory Committee and Board of Selectmen discussions in the past that with respect to town borrowings, periodically we will continue to issue short-term debt until we decide to fix it and put it out as a long-term bond. So this is a $10 million note for 1 year duration, right? And, I have to say it was, again, a reaffirmation of just the hard work of town hall staff, the prior Board of Selectmen and the Advisory Committee, because we had, according to our financial advisors, great market coverage. We had 6 bidders on our bonds. The range was a net investment cost of, I have too many pieces of paper, a net investment cost of 1.1040, which is the successful bidder, J.P. Morgan Securities LLC, up to a rate net investment cost of about 1.4%. Richard Totora and Janet were indicating that the recent municipal borrowings they'd seen were in the sort of 1.25 to 1.35%, and so they felt that we had done quite well. And again, it's just really a testament to all the hard work that goes on here at Town Hall, staff side, volunteer side, to maintain our AAA bond rating. And as we've learned, it's that financial management, I think, that has become more important to the bond rating agencies, over the short term. So this is, in part, some new money to fund certain borrowings, as well as refunding prior obligations, right?
Exactly, we're refunding, we have a ban from last year, a one-year note that's maturing on Thursday. So this is, a portion of this will be used to renew those purposes. And that is, we have the Lincoln School Apartment, a capital project. We have a land purchase from Recreation Park Drive, and the Hingham Heritage Museum, which was a CPC funded grant. Those are being renewed for another year. And we have new money borrowing, which will cover the Lennar parcel purchase from the CPC funding, the purchase of some golf carts and utility vehicles for Jay McGrail up at the Social Country Club, and road improvements that were authorized under the 2016 town meeting for the program that you just heard Harry and Roger are working on. So those are being added, which gets us up from last year's to the $10 million this year. It's a one-year note, and what we really are here for tonight is to ask you to vote to approve. We typically award, or we do award, the net interest cost, the lowest net interest cost, which Karen has explained is the 1.1 blah, blah, blah percent. And so we need a vote of the treasurer accepts the bid, and it requires the approval of the Board of Selectmen in order for us to accept that bid formally and to go forward with the process. So that's the purpose of being here tonight. Thank you. Karen, you did a great job explaining.
Thank you, thank you. Little pressure.
Any
good.
questions? Any questions from the audience? I would just, before the vote, add that, one of the benefits of being a AAA bond community is that when we do have an issuance, we typically have more bidders. We get more favorable interest rates, and again, it's one of the byproducts of our AAA bond rating, which means that the that the total project cost, for example, for the Laner property, for the golf carts at the country club, other communities are borrowing money at higher interest rates, and so those same services are costing their taxpayers, more dollars. And as Karen said, it's a testament to a lot of hard work from a lot of people over a long time. But just one more reason why protecting that AAA bond rating is so important.
I think there's a series of votes, right?
Yeah, so Karen, do you want to?
Sure.
Make the
I'd just
motion.
like to say that we've already put the golf carts to good use in the Selectmen's Cup yesterday, and I won't mention any names, but there might be slight damage to one cart from an errant drive, but I think it's under warranty. So I think we're good. Okay, so this is for these are the votes related to the issuance of our $10 million short-term note. So I would move to approve the sale of $10,903,243 of 2% general obligation bond anticipation notes of the town dated May 17, 2017, and payable on May 17, 2018, to J.P. Morgan Securities LLC at par, and accrued interest, if any, plus a premium of $97,693.06.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Further, I move that in connection with the marketing and sale of the note, the preparation and distribution of a note of sale and preliminary official statement dated April 27, 2017, and a final official statement dated May 9, 2017, each in such form as may be approved by the town treasurer, be and hereby are ratified, confirmed, approved, and adopted.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. I move that the town treasurer and the Board of Selectmen be, and hereby are, authorized to execute and deliver a significant events disclosure undertakings in compliance with SEC Rule 15C 2-12 in such forms as may be approved by bond counsel to the town, which undertaking shall be incorporated by reference in the note for the benefit of the holders of the note from time to time.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. I move that we authorize and direct the treasurer to establish post-insurance federal tax compliance procedures in such form as the treasurer and bond counsel deem sufficient, or if such procedures are currently in place, to review and update said procedures in order to monitor and maintain the tax-exempt status of the note.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. I move that each member of the Board of Selectmen, the town clerk, and the town treasurer be, and hereby are, authorized to take any and all such actions and execute and deliver such certificates, receipts, or other documents as may be determined by them or any of them to be necessary or convenient to carry into effect the provisions of the foregoing votes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Before you both just leave the table, I should mention for the benefit of the audience, town meeting was a few weeks ago. Sue Nickerson is instrumental in the budgeting process. Jean Montgomery, instrumental in the capital outlay process. Just want to take this opportunity to thank you both for the high-quality, great work and support that you provide, the advisory committee, the capital outlay committee, and this board. When a lot of us were, when we were sitting on advisory and things, a lot of times budgets, capital outlay, sometimes got a little contentious at town meeting. I think there's a lot of trust and credibility in the process and the work, and certainly both of your contributions are instrumental to that, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies.
All right.
It wasn't a motion, but I second that as well.
Thank you, good night.
Thank you all very much.
Next on the agenda is a request for change of manager for the Fresh Market. Mr. Glover, would you like to take a seat, please? Could you please identify yourself for the record and explain the purpose of being here tonight?
I'm Gerard Glover, store manager at the Fresh Market. Just need to change the liquor license over to my name.
Okay, and you are becoming the new manager?
I am the
You
new
are
manager.
the new manager.
Yeah, just need to switch over the license to my name.
Okay. And Tom, all the licensing?
It is.
The packets seem complete, everything's here?
Everything's there.
Okay. Questions from my colleagues?
None.
Nope.
Okay. Since Karen had a long motion?
Yeah.
I'll entertain a motion to, I'll move to approve the request of the Fresh Market of Massachusetts, Inc., DBA The Fresh Market, for a change of manager from Tim Lally to Gerard Glover, subject to the approval of the Alcoholic Beverages Control Commission.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I appreciate you coming in.
Terrific.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, Lincoln School Apartments. Hi, Dave. Hi, Roger.
Hello.
So we've gotten a memo with an authorization request to enter into a new contract with Corcoran Management. Dave, could you maybe just give us a little overview of?
Well, again, we've gone through the process. It's the first time for me, so it was kind of interesting, but there was only one bidder. I think there were 3 people that took packets, 1 returned a bid. So it was relatively simple in terms of choosing the new manager. And in the process, we've had to go through it as Roger, the sheet that Roger and I went through. So we've had, good experience with Corcoran. I don't really see any, there's always ups and downs in these kind of things, but at the end of the day, they were very responsive to the things that I brought up, because I'm sort of new on the job, so what about this, what about that? So I think I think we have a reasonably good relationship. The contract came in at about, $1,000 more than it was 3 years ago, so it's not like there's really any inflation there. There was an inflation kicker in this one, which may be difficult to figure out. I'm not sure if you're going to do that or I'm going to do that in terms of what the inflation really is. No, but I think the board, we had our meeting last night and approved the contract, which then you will have to approve. And everybody feels like they're very responsive, and we're doing a lot of things, trying to make things better for the residents, and obviously, trying to improve the balance sheet and get ready for the capital projects and the other things that we're thinking we need to do over the next 5 or 10 years. So I feel pretty good about what they're doing, and again, I think their responsiveness is important. When something comes up, they respond to it, and so I think that's the most important part of the relationship.
Terrific, thank you. Questions? Karen?
Yeah, so, and occupancy rates continue to be strong there? Is there
Yeah,
a
so
wait list, or?
Yeah, so we have, 60 units. All of them are full. Since I've been on the board, there's been one person who's left. Unfortunately, it was due to medical reasons. So the turnover is, obviously quite low. I don't think anybody is getting ready to leave. But again, you have to be 62 to qualify to enter. So this is an older population, section. But and so we have, we get about $1,700 a month per unit. That's what we get from the federal government, or that's what we get minus what the renters pay. And so I don't think we've had an occupancy problem since I've been there, and the waiting list is about 50 people.
Okay.
It could be a lot larger. That's one of the things that I think came up in the RFP, is that I think two things came up. One, the town, I think, wants a better understanding of the list and whether they need to keep a copy at town hall just so they can certify, and I think this is important, that they can certify that the list is being handled appropriately.
Right.
Because it's HUD, right? So we have to follow these rules and all this and stuff. So I think that's important. We'll execute that. And the other thing is to make sure that it stays on the inventory list. I think there was some question about that, and Roger maybe could explain that, but a little better than I could. But in terms of keeping those 60 units on that inventory list, that then you don't want them to drop off for some technical reason. And so I think that's, that's an important part of what we're going to, those are the two things we're going to clean up. Emily Wentworth was at the meeting.
Yep.
And I think she sounds a lot more knowledgeable about that stuff than I do, so I'm sort of giving her the chance to talk with Corcoran and get those 2 points.
That's a great idea.
Those two items sort of cleaned up.
So when you talk about inventory, so do all of those units qualify as affordable?
Currently.
Yeah.
And Emily's been making a very concerted effort, particularly over the last year, to make sure that we're doing everything that we need to do as a town to make sure that those units that are on the inventory, which is the 40B inventory, are maintained, and that any necessary filings, et cetera, are all current. So
Right, and that's something that I have not, really kept up on, and really have just sort of, figured out that that's probably, you sort of think it's going to be there, right? You don't really-
Right.
There's
It's
some,
crucial, right?
you have to get the sticker for the Carvey or something for the
Right,
dump.
right.
I mean, so,
I would imagine, too, that with Corcoran doing a lot of the day-to-day, that's going to be helpful as you enter into sort of capital planning and identifying some of the longer-term and some of the, sort of infrastructure and mechanical system needs. If these are the folks that are responding to the issues, maintaining it, they'll be a good partner as you move forward on that capital plan.
yeah, I think so. We did a capital needs, I think it was 2 years ago, right as maybe it was a year ago, right as I sort of got onto the board, they'd had one done. And the things that came up were obviously the elevator, and then the windows, redoing the windows, not for any safety reason, but for thermal, heat loss issues. But we've done a lot of, things. We've replaced the fire alarm system. So that's clearly it's a much better system, because the one was the original system that was there. We've replaced all of the lighting in the building to LED, and actually got money back from the light plant as part of that program that they have.
Right.
And so we've done, we've improved or increased the capacity of the emergency generator, put a plan in place to test that more often, because that, we have an elderly population, we've fixed the parking lot. So, there's a lot of things that we've done to make basically make the place safer for the residents. And we're moving forward with, accelerating the replacement of refrigerators and stoves and things that would either be a safety issue or an energy consumption issue. And the money's there. We're not making tons of money, but, we have enough, and obviously we've gotten $1 million from the town, which is kind of sitting there, that hopefully, I don't know if we're going to use all of it, but it's there. We have money from the CPC and the Affordable Housing Trust to take care of the elevator. And we're making our own, money. So we're not spending as much as we're making. We can't seem to spend it fast enough, but, I guess
We
that's.
can help you with that.
We can work on that, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I
Is
think-
there any type of, like, residence council there, governance council, were they at all a part of the process when you were reviewing the management agreement, or no? No?
No, we didn't, no, not that, I don't think that was, I'm not sure if that was ever discussed. I think we have plenty of residents that come and attend the meetings.
Okay, great.
And so they, they give us reasonably frank feedback about what's going on, which gets back to this response issue.
Yep.
And so I think we've tried to address that when those things come up and do the best we can, so.
Okay. And is there an on-site manager there, or if,
Yep, so they have two, so there's a person in the office who's there every day, who basically, it's a woman, but she's there, and so she's not like lifting heavy boxes and, moving fire tanks around or something like that, but she's there as a manager of the building. And then there's a engineering manager, or whatever you want to call it, jack of all trades, who fix things, or if something needs to be fixed, he can call, and if something serious happens, like, a pipe burst or something, he can get that. So there's two people that are on site. And they do have somebody who's on call 24 hours. So if something happens
Great.
in the middle of the night, they can call somebody and hopefully get, something fixed. So that's, I think that's typical of the Corcoran sort of process in those kind of buildings. Greg Doble, who's one of the people on the board, used to work for Corcoran and now works for a much bigger organization. And he's been a pretty good, information, conduit for me, because I'm not that familiar with operating a building of this size, or, I'm more in the investment business, not in running buildings. And so, he's comfortable that what they're doing is pretty much standard operating procedure. And the contract, is about what he would see. I mean, roughly, you would say that each unit would cost about $10,000 a year to run and manage. That's sort of the standard, and we're a little below that. So all the metrics are about what you would expect.
Great. Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the audience? Jim?
Jim Watson, 291 Rockland Street. I'm just very pleased to hear you. I'm a member of the Housing Authority, and we're just so grateful to have a counterpart, this different but similar, with a great-looking building, and with a lot of, I think, forward-looking plans. So that's all. Just congratulations on it.
Okay.
Thank you. Would either of my colleagues like to make a motion?
Sure. I'll move that we enter into a contract for property management services at Lincoln School Apartments with Corcoran Management Company for an annual contract value of $46,000, with the option to extend this contract up to 2 years.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Tom,
Thank you.
could we, I know Roger is here, but I know we have two possible votes later on. Could we maybe ask Roger to stay at the table, get those votes, and you can head home?
That was my note to myself to ask you to do that.
Roger has lots of late nights, so, Dave, thank you. We're gonna go down to the two possible votes, number 2 and number 3, which are contracts for earth materials and paving markings. And Roger, we've gotten a packet from you. Thank you for providing that.
Well, both contracts are issued through the Southeast Consortium with our neighboring communities. One contract is intended to satisfy the materials for gravels that we may need, sands, stone, that type of material for construction. The other contract is for painting, line striping of the road, something that actually Harry manages and undertakes right about now, or very shortly. He'll be out there now that the weather's broken appropriately to repaint and restripe our roadways, our parking spots, parking lots, municipal parking lots, things of that nature. The way the contracts are issued, again, through the consortium, and as a group, there's typically a vote to accept contingent upon our local authorities' approval of those contracts.
And for Karen's benefit, these are annual, these are around this time every year. We vote for these items because these are part of the supplies that are needed to execute the road program.
Correct. And those also contain the option, and those options would come before the board if it was elected to exercise those options to extend. So they also offer an option to extend for an additional 2 years on a one-year basis. But again, we would come back to you for your approval to do those if that were the case.
Okay.
Questions?
Yeah, so it's part of the South Shore Regional Services Consortium, so is this our sort of proportionate share of the cost of a more global contract, or
The way it works is every community provides an estimated quantity. That quantity is lumped into one larger quantity, so the hope is that there's an economy of scale, maybe. And so what we've done in other bids where we thought that wasn't the case, we've withdrawn from those particular bid items. So that what ends up happening is those items end up being priced by the unit, for example, by the foot of double line, or by the ton of 3/4 inch stone, and they price those units. So the contingent upon the quantity that we order, we would be billed accordingly, but every community will pay the same amount per unit.
Yep, okay.
Paul? Any questions?
No.
Any questions from the audience? Okay, a motion?
I'll move that we vote to sign a one-year contract extension with TL Edwards, Inc. for roadway management, soils, aggregates, stone materials only, delivered in FOB as outlined in the bid package. Number 1, earthwork. This contract is valid through May 31, 2018.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
I move that we vote to sign a one-year contract with Highway Safety System, Inc. for pavement markings as outlined in the bid package number 6, date March 17. This contract is valid through May 31st, 2018.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Terrific. Roger, thank you so much.
Thanks,
Roger.
Roger. Thanks for
Good
coming.
night.
See you in a
Okay,
couple, my man.
Harbormaster. Hi, Ken.
Sure.
Good evening.
Hi, we haven't seen you in a while.
It's been a little while. Yeah.
About to get very busy for you two.
Absolutely. It's already starting to pick up. So obviously with me is this is Joe Driscoll, the head assistant harbormaster. So
Welcome,
he's
Joe.
joining us tonight. He's going to talk about the third item on the agenda.
Okay,
I'm going to discuss the first two, and when we get to the fourth one actually, I'll recuse myself at that point, and I'll just give you a little explanation. I've been instrumental in the organization, the Mass Harbor Masters Association, with achieving the funds for that project. So just out of an abundance of caution, I'm going to just recuse myself so that there's no appearance of any conflicts there.
thank you.
You're welcome.
So the first item is a land management agreement.
Yes. So this is the land management agreement for the boat ramp and the boat ramp parking lot adjacent to it. Back in 2004, the town entered into a land management agreement with the state, and this is an update to that original agreement. There are a couple changes. I guess I'll go through a couple of the changes, and if you
Please.
have any specific questions, I can answer them for you. But there was a couple changes to the agreement. One being that there's an additional 20 vehicle spots in the parking lot that would be reserved for car top access. This would be cars that come in with like a kayak or a small rowing boat that would like to launch at the ramp, go out paddling and come back. So we would have 20 spaces that would be reserved specifically for the car top access, and that there would be 10 vehicle and trailer spots off-site.
And that's Station Street.
And that's Station Street. So that's never been in this writing before, but there's always been this general understanding that that's where we would have our overflow of approximately 10 car and trailer spots. I think in my time here in the last 14 years or 13 years, I've probably only seen trailers over there 2 or 3 times. So it's not something that happens all the time, but I guess one of the reasons we have the 10 overflow and you're seeing the 20 car top spots is traditionally the Public Access Board, when they enter into these agreements and they do these boat ramps, they're looking for about 50 spots for cars with trailers or car top access to meet their threshold. So with the 32 vehicle and trailer spots alone, we wouldn't be at that threshold. So with the 10 additional spots and then the 20 trailer spots brings us just over that 50 threshold.
And the parking lot has more than 50 spaces.
Yeah, so I counted today just to be sure, there are 32 trailer spots and there's roughly 75 or 6 single car spots. A couple of them are handicapped. So I want to say there's plenty of parking down there. Obviously, there's times in the summer when it's full. It fluctuates, as we all know. In the wintertime, it's desolate, and then there's times in the summer when it's full.
And just to be clear, this is the lot that's adjacent to the boat ramp area, and not the bathing beach lot.
Correct. It's not the bathing beach lot. It's the lot directly adjacent to the ramp, and it doesn't include the parking on in front of the town pier and in front of Iron Horse Park. It doesn't include those parking spots.
Okay.
Those are separate. And then the other big change that I think is actually really helpful for the town is that it's under number 6 there. This here allows the town to have, so we have one fee for people that use the boat ramp, and that is for commercial haulers. We don't have a fee for residents or non-residents. We charge commercial haulers, I think it's $250 for the entire season, or if they don't want to pay for the entire season, the commercial haulers can pay $65 for one use. So under the old agreement, this was brought to my attention, you can only have one fee. So if you charge $250, you have to charge it to everyone. But this will break it down so that we can have a separate fee for commercial haulers, and then if the town ever chose to do so, you could have a fee for in-state and out-of-state if you wanted to. We don't have that, but if you wanted to, it allows you to have more flexibility in your fee structures.
And Ken, I seem to remember, I think it was just in the past year that a lot of our harbor fees were, you do a good job at looking at that periodically. So is it your thought that you would, the next time it comes time to look at all the fees, you'd consider the boat ramp?
Yes, we can absolutely consider that, and so we can definitely look at that. And I guess one of the reasons this is coming up now, it's not just coincidence, but we've talked an awful lot about rebuilding that boat ramp. The rebar is starting to show through. It's wearing out. I think it was built in the late 70s or something. So the state, this is becoming more of a priority for the state. It's important to them because of its close proximity to Boston. And they would like to have us have the latest agreement. They have already started, they've already put out to bid for engineering design for the boat ramp. They've selected a contractor. They have preliminary designs. They did soundings this spring. So they are working forward on the designs. I've met with them a couple times, and at some point the design will get a little further along. It'll work its way up to the town for you guys to approve, and then the next step will be securing the funding to go forward and replace the boat ramp. So this is kind of the precursor. They're looking for us to have the latest agreement in place for the town.
Questions? Karen?
No, I think I'm good. That was a good presentation.
I've been practicing all week.
Well, it shows.
Ken, I just, on item number 1, and I think Tom may have forwarded this question, but actually, it speaks to the fact that the timing of the construction repairs are dependent on budget restrictions and appropriation of adequate funds. My question was, is there any risk that this project could potentially get started? The state has, state revenues aren't what we think, and it could stop, or when they start, they finish?
So I wouldn't say that couldn't happen. I think it would be highly unlikely. They don't start a project until they have funding.
Okay.
And the track record for the Public Access Board is they build beautiful boat ramps. They do a great job. And they get them done. They get them done as quick as they can. They don't want to interrupt the boating season. It's really all about creating access for the public to get out into the water. So I'm not concerned about that. I don't think you should either. I think it's something that we should always keep in the back of our mind as we move forward with the replacement.
Okay, thank you. So would somebody like to make a motion on the land management agreement.
I'll move that we enter into a land management agreement by and between the Department of Fish and Games and the Town of Hingham, acting by and through its Board of Selectmen. This agreement shall be in effect until mutually dissolved or modified in writing by the Department of the municipality.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and the Shellfish Management Plan?
Sure. The Shellfish Management Plan, that was all, last plan was executed in 2004, and this is coming before you for some updates, and I'll give you a little bit of background on this. So if we go back to 1999, that year over 13,000 shellfish were harvested from Hingham Harbor. In 2011, roughly 13,199 racks of shellfish. That's about 45 pounds or so of shellfish, that many racks. In 2011, only 392 racks were harvested in 2011. We actually shut down after 2011. We haven't done any shellfish harvesting until this previous year, where I came in probably about this time, a little bit earlier, requesting to vary from our shellfish management plan with the issuance of licenses to the diggers. So what's happened is our shellfish bed has been suffering from what's called neoplasia. It's a disease amongst the shellfish. It's non-harmful to humans. It's been looked at by the Board of Health. There's nothing that we have to worry about, but it causes premature death in the shellfish. So due to that disease, our numbers have died off significantly, and there were a couple things in our old plan that needed to be modified to account for the current situation in our shellfish bed. So I'll point out a couple that I think are important to note. I guess one thing people are always concerned about are fees. So the fees aren't changing. It's $225 for a resident and $350 for a non-resident, which we can have that fee structure for the entire year. So what I've been doing these last couple of years is, because they used to come and dig all year. Now they're only here for 3-4 months a year, and then they go to Hull and Weymouth. And that's not something that the shell fishermen can actually afford right now with the number of shellfish they're taking. So we've been prorating that. So I worked that into the agreement that it's all right to prorate it for the number of months that they're here, because they're not here for the entire year. Okay, and then the other change in here, the other big change in here is that we used to have a deadline that they would have to purchase their shellfish license by March 1. And I remember putting that in 2004, and that was really important to me at the time, because if we had an abundance of shellfish, we didn't want every shellfish digger coming to town, getting a permit, and compromising the number of shellfish that come away, because we want to harvest them, but we don't want to take too much either. So there's the management aspect there. So that was really important to me in 2004. But now, with the condition where there not being enough shellfish, I don't think we're going to have any type of mad rush to Hingham to come shellfishing. As it is, we can't get enough diggers to come here when we need to harvest. So there's that change in here. There is another fee where each rack that's harvested, they pay the town $1. We looked at that fee, if it's something that should be raised. The highest rack fee in the state is $2 a rack, and they're just not harvesting enough shellfish that they can pay $2 a rack. After they take the shellfish here, it goes up to Newburyport. It's depurized. They have to pay more fees there, then they have to bring it back to the market. So I don't recommend that we increase that fee. I think that would be a burden on our shellfishermen at this point in time. And the last change that I think is important to note is there's a clause in here that requires the master shellfish digger, who oversees his subordinates, to report to the town the number of shellfish racks that they harvested. This is important for our record keeping, to make sure that the number that we recorded that they took out actually matches what was reported to us and what the state got. Not so much as to check to make sure we got the number of dollars for each rack, but it's really to make sure that no additional shellfish were picked up anywhere else along the transit. If there were ever to be, someone got sick at a restaurant, there's actually a whole bunch of procedures that are used. So when the shellfish are taken from Hingham, they're tagged, and that tag stays with that lot of shellfish all the way to the market. So if someone were to get sick, they can trace back where the shellfish came. So it's really important that we always make sure that new shellfish don't get introduced into a batch. So I had that, that clause inserted there. So I think it's a really good document, especially considering the condition of our shellfish resource at this time. And if you have any additional questions on this,
Paul,
I'll be willing to.
Any questions?
I just have a general understanding question. What happens if the shellfish aren't harvested? They just die in place?
Yeah, that's what's happening, is they're dying in place if they're not harvested. So
Does that taint the beds?
it doesn't taint the beds. Obviously, when things die, it can give off a little bit of smell. So what the division, so on behalf of the town, I regulate our town shellfish beds for the town, but work in conjunction with Division Marine Fisheries. They have the biologists. They're out there testing the water quality, examining the shellfish, and they determine, okay, this is a good time to harvest. They're at legal size, and we don't think they're going to get much bigger. They could start dying, and that's what we did last year. And we were able to get, a couple hundred racks out, get it to the market when there's a demand, and it helps the shellfish diggers get a little bit of extra money in their pocket.
Is that what's tagged, the rack?
Yeah, so exactly. So the rack is tagged. That gets a tag here in Hingham that stays with it throughout the entire process, all the way to the market.
And Ken, the references to digger, master digger, and subordinate, are those part of the Massachusetts regulations defined?
Yes.
And so if I am a master digger, when I come to get my license, I present those credentials to you?
Exactly. So
Or
they'll
to
actually
Eileen.
present it to the town clerk.
To
So
Eileen,
she'll
yeah.
issue the license on behalf of me. That's where she does that. So she just does a great job. So she'll issue the license. The master digger will identify him. He's got his state credentials, and then he is in charge of however many subordinate diggers, and then the subordinate diggers also get their license. So the master digger is in charge of supervising his guys, collecting the shellfish, getting to the depuration plant, and then after 3 days later, picking him up and taking him to the market.
Okay. And I think I remember asking you this question a long time ago, sitting in another seat, but so recreational shellfishing isn't covered by this policy?
Yeah, so we don't have any recreational shellfishing in Hingham because of our we're listed as conditionally restricted, which means everything has to go to Newburyport for depuration. So because of that depuration process, you can't actually go out there and just harvest shellfish and then bring them home and eat them. I mean, most people would probably be fine and wouldn't have an issue. It's if you had someone that maybe was from out of state and never really had this, and they eat, local shellfish that hasn't been depurized, it's possible that they could get sick. So I know this is always kind of frustrating. People are like, why can't I get a residential license? And that's kind of it in a nutshell.
And that's because of the condition of our beds?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
They're just conditionally restricted. They're not bad. They're not harmful. It's just because of our geographic location. And every couple of years they talk about trying to reclassify us and see if we can open up for recreational permits and so forth. But the process takes so many years, and it doesn't really happen.
Okay. And recently, we had in our packet, there was a closure, I guess, because of all the rain, maybe?
Yep.
How does that get communicated to folks that might want to come and work in Hingham?
So you get that. I also get that. Right now, we're not open to shellfishing. We haven't sold any licenses. But when we are open, if that affected us, the master digger will be aware of it also. They monitor the rainfall. There's a number that they can call in and check with the plant, and then I also know they can check with me. So
Okay.
And then we make sure that they're not out there digging if they're not supposed to be.
And is it posted anywhere? Is it on our website, or is it a physical
We don't put it
posting?
on our website, mainly because the public really isn't going to be out there. It's really
just
one or
it's
two
commercial.
master diggers that will know, okay, we can't be there, and they'll tell their diggers no, and it works out just fine.
Okay.
Any questions from the audience? Okay. Someone like to make a motion?
I'll do this one. I move that we adopt a revised shellfish management plan.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. And then next are the security cameras, so Joe.
Yeah, so, well, actually, there should be, is the license?
There's two of them.
Oh,
so there's-
oh, you're not off the hook. There's a second vote.
Yeah, so there's one more item here. This is a license agreement with Weymouth Port, so I'll briefly touch on our
the
current
security
camera
cameras.
project.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
So in 2014, we received a port security grant in the amount of $176,000, somewhere in there, 179. And this allowed for us to install roughly 16 cameras along the waterfront, a workstation, 2 workstations in the Harbormaster's office, and a server that will maintain all the recordings from the cameras. So this system was put in, and it's a unique system. It doesn't work using the internet. It works off of point-to-point antennas. So it has an antenna on the camera that transmits it to another antenna, and it makes its way back to our office, and that's how the video feeds come back. So what you have before you is a license for us to have antenna or antennas, and a camera or cameras on the top of the Weymouth Port building. That's an important location because of its height. A lot of our areas on the harbor are very low, so it's important to get the stuff up there so we can get it back to the system to be able to record it and view it. The system's been in now for several months. It's been fabulous. It's helped out in a lot of different situations. It's helped the detectives with investigations. It's helped us tremendously with our work. We can't always be down there, so it's great just to have some of the stuff that's in the public domain that's not intruding on anyone's expectation of privacy. It's worked really great for us. So this license is to allow us to have what we already have on top of Weymouth Port and keep it there. At any point in time, if you decided you didn't want to be part of this, it's easy to leave the agreement. So I think it's a really good agreement, and it would be helpful for us.
Questions?
Yeah, could you just explain a little bit about what footage you're seeing and why it's important to you? I guess I'm just trying to understand how you're using this stuff, what kind of information you're collecting.
So a couple situations where this could be really helpful is if we get a report. So I had a report a couple weeks ago for a vessel aground off one of our islands. I didn't even have to get in the boat and race out there. I was able to first pull it up, look over there, and realize it was the same boat that's been aground over there for the last year or two. So with stuff like that, we can very quickly zoom in on something, locate something, and identify if there's an issue. It can take 5 to 10 minutes to transit in a boat across town. So when you're able to just very quickly go to your camera and pull up a feed and see what's going on, it's very helpful there. We also have had, we had a gentleman who lost his jacket with money in it. We're able to look at the camera and see, was there a person in the area? Did we see someone walk away with his jacket? So there's just a wide array of things that this is helpful with us.
And you're saying the camera's also being used for law enforcement more generally?
Yeah, it's been able to help detectives on various occasions identify certain things that they needed to find out that were going on in the area. I know that's kind of vague, but...
Kind of, yeah. And what can you see? Like, what is this camera, where does this camera look?
So the types of things we'll see are, we have 2 on Town Pier. So we can see Town Pier, we can see the Harbormaster boat on the dock. We're able to see the waterfront, people coming and going to the dock. That's the type of stuff we'll see. We're able to see the commuter boats at the commuter boat terminal.
Mr. Healy?
I have no questions, Mr. Corson. Thank you.
Any questions from the audience? Jim?
Jim Watson, 291 Rockland Street. I think you're doing a wonderful job. I just keep wondering, over the last few years, is there any chance that the shipyard management could convert one of the remaining ways to a ramp that would serve at least the shipyard and take some pressure off your ramp?
That's been discussed on numerous occasions. There's really only one location that could possibly, and any, you're right by the DCR. That's the only place that could possibly serve as a public boat ramp, but it's just not practical, and I don't think the state has any intention. It's not our property, it's a state, but I don't think it would be practical to turn into a public boat ramp, because that's where they're all parking their cars and equipment, and the amount of work to remove the old pilings, it would be inexpensive.
Okay.
And it's also right in a kind of a precarious location where the boats would be trying to launch and the commuter boats are coming in, so it's a tough location.
I was thinking as one maybe just for the residents, but they'll take that many people off the road and off.
Yeah, it was looked at and it never,
Okay.
it didn't make any traction, but it's a good thought.
It worked for the DEs, but it doesn't really work for little boats.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it would be tight.
yeah, it would be really tight.
Thank you. Would someone like to make a
Chief's got a
motion?
comment.
Oh, Glenn, please. Thank you.
Good evening, Chief Olson, Hingham
Evening,
Police.
Chief.
I just did want to mention, I know there were some questions about law enforcement uses, and that sometimes concerns people. The majority of this, the purpose is to keep an eye on what's in the harbor, and what we find nowadays is when people have stuff happen to them, the first thing they do is like, oh, you have to have it on video. So we often, if a crime is committed in a parking lot, we will go to the local stores and ask them, do you have video of your parking lot? And then we can look to see if a car was broken into. So that's what the purposes, some of the purposes we would be looking at. And we do that not just with these cameras, but any opportunity we would get. If something happened at the South Shore Country Club, we would be going, hey, do you have some cameras that view that parking lot? So that's where we're really looking for this. And I know over the years when a boat, occasionally you'll get some boats broken into, and that's the first thing people, well, don't you have it on video? Don't you have cameras? So I think this allows us with an extra tool to help protect the harbors as well. And people know those cameras are there, so they're not going to come around and want to break into the boats at Hingham because they know it's on camera. So that's all. I don't want the big brother issue becoming
No,
too
I mean,
big of a-
that, you can tell by the expression on my face, I'm mulling this over, because I'm a little,
It's important to note, I mean, we've had summers where we've had upwards of 20 vessels in the shipyard broken into, damaged, stuff stolen. I think last year, I don't know the exact number, but we might have had anywhere from five maybe up to 10 boats stolen or taken for joyrides. So, we think Hingham Harbor doesn't have any issues, but, people used to say to me all the time, don't you have a camera? I mean, if you had a camera here, we would have seen what happened to my boat. So, I think the general consensus, I mean, everyone always thinks, someone might be looking, but, it's really here to help the boaters and so forth. So, and let's not forget, it also has other effects. We're able to monitor the weather and other environmental things. So it does have other ancillary benefits too.
Thank you. Would someone like to make a motion?
Sure. I'll move to authorize the town administrator or assistant town administrator to sign the license for security cameras between the Hingham Harbormaster and Weymouth Port Condominium Phase 1 Trust.
second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Okay, I'm gonna step out and let you guys carry on. Joe will do a great job.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.
So Joe, this is a memorandum of agreement by and between the Massachusetts Harbormasters Association and the town of Hingham regarding the Port of Boston CCTV system.
Correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. So the Massachusetts Harbormasters Association is in the process of setting up a coastal camera project that is similar to ours, but it's going to be from the New Hampshire border all the way down through Plymouth. It's the same use as what Ken just explained for our system. It is actually the same type of system with the point-to-point antennas. And it will be very good for heightening, the maritime domain awareness for local harbor masters as well as Coast Guard.
So will this, it looks like this will be additional cameras beyond the ones at the town
Correct.
that we already have. Where are some examples of sites where these cameras would be placed?
So one of them will be on Weymouth Port. Because of its great advantage of its view, has a very wide angle of all of Hingham Bay and the back river. It can actually be used, say, for the Coast Guard to use it in Weymouth or even all the way up to Boston. Another one would be to look at World's End, which is a high traffic area. A lot of people go there in the summer to hang out on the boats and relax, which we every weekend have incidents in there. And like Ken was saying, having that camera there, it's quicker to readjust the camera than it is to get a boat out there, and it can be used to determine how much a response is needed, and if we need to call in additional help from Coast Guard, from Hull Harbormaster, State Police, and all that.
And then it looks like there will also be some workstations and things. Will this tie into the cameras that we have, or is this going to be like a separate system?
For us, it would be, I believe, integrated. For the community or the coastal project itself, our cameras wouldn't be integrated, and like the Coast Guard wouldn't be able to look at any that are additional on our system that
So
we
in-
already set up.
So in some ways, what this will do is it'll give us greater coverage of our waterway. And
Correct.
in some ways, if it avoids us having to expand this down the road.
Correct, yes. This system would expand our view of the harbor without having to use additional
Yeah.
funding on our system.
And in this document, it's item 2.5, it says that that the board will be setting an annual user fee. Do we have a sense of how much that might be?
I am not exactly sure. I've heard it may be around $200 annually for maintenance and upkeep, which is just to subsidize the federal funding from the grant that's been received. But that's not set in stone yet.
Okay. Questions from my colleagues?
Yeah, I had a question about the policies and procedures issued by the board that's referenced here. I just, I don't see them, and
So we don't, as far as I know, and I'll have to check into that, but we don't have those policies and procedures yet because they haven't completed them.
okay.
The
So
MHA.
it's in the recitals, and then it's in number 3, saying the harbor master or his designee of the town of Hingham utilizing this CCTV system will adhere to the policies and procedures pursuant to this CCTV system issued by the board. Nothing in the MOA or other are not authorized by their appointing authority. I don't know. I mean,
So I guess, do you mind if I jump in?
Please.
What's the timing requirement for this? Do you know?
It's actually currently underway as we speak. They're setting the system up. They have, I believe Winthrop has already had equipment installed. I'm not sure about Weymouth. Boston has equipment installed. I believe Quincy has already. So they are currently setting up this system.
So those folks installed their system without a policies and procedures document to follow?
I'm not sure if they have signed the MOA yet or not.
And I'm wondering if we were to delay this till our next meeting, when we might be able to get that document, is this something that could be, we can still take advantage of, or is this?
so like one of the
part
things I'm
project?
concerned about is there could be like insurance requirements, or there could be additional expenses in addition to the $200 user fee that, you're ballparking for us that, I would want to think about, or there may be other requirements in their policies and procedures that would cause us to ask some additional questions. I'm not trying to unduly delay this, but,
Correct. So the insurance would be through the MHA, because it's their equipment.
Okay,
The town wouldn't own those cameras. We would just be supplied with a workstation to access them.
okay.
And I believe, and again, I'll have to double check into it, but with the equipment being installed already, for those communities that don't have the MOA yet, they just won't get their workstation. So the system is being set up. The MOA is to get that workstation to
So
have
to get your
access
workstation,
to.
I see what you're saying. Yep. So the overall federal program, it moves forward, and the question is sort of like the tie-in, right? Whether the community is going to tie into this.
Correct, yeah.
Joe, if we defer to vote on this, our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, June 6th. If we defer to vote to just see if, get a little bit more information about these policies and procedures, is that going to, will that place this at risk?
I'm not sure, but I know that there is a push to get this set up because of the upcoming boating seasons.
I'm sure there is.
Ken knows what this is about.
Is he out in the hall?
If you could take a break, let me go get a glass of water. I'll be right back.
Glass of water be good.
I think one of the things that, we've seen in the town, and it's a different example, but for example, town meeting the last couple of years, when we've had, when there've been, the marijuana regulations are one that come to mind. This year at town meeting, one of the things we said was, gosh, until those state requirements come down, let's kind of put a moratorium so that we know what we're getting into. We know what we're signing up for. And I think we've had experience in the past where sometimes the opportunity comes first and the procedures follow. And I think we like to try to just be very cautious on that.
Correct, and,
Feel better. Upon further consideration, I think maybe we can delay this till June 6th.
Okay.
It's not going to hurt anything. The policies and procedures, I think, are going to mainly cover with people's rights to privacy and the types of issues, Karen, I think you were leaning towards earlier.
Okay.
So let's get those, and
Yeah.
then we can move forward on that.
Okay,
And
so, yeah, and, oh, go ahead, Mary, sorry.
I was just going to say that, one of the things that I would also emphasize as a benefit of this, and, you mentioned World End, as a boater, I've often had the experience, because you keep, you're supposed to keep your radio going, you're supposed to keep it on channel 16, and I can't tell you how many times you get a call that says, I'm a disabled vessel, I'm taking on water, I'm right off, and they use a land point of sight. They don't have any sort of navigation aid, any GPS, compass, and what happens is you get a notice that says, hey boaters, we got a distress call, or we got a call, keep an eye out. And when you hear those things, I can sort of see the value of a camera, which is that in many cases the people who are able to lend assistance need to find that vessel. And I think that that's an important aspect of both of these programs.
So just, as you're pulling together maybe the policies and procedures, I think one additional question I'd have is under 2.2, just our obligation to maintain equipment. So it looks like it's a $2,500 value, which is, not the end of the world, but if it breaks, it looks like it's sort of on us. So I'd just like to understand that. And then, again, I think as Mary and Paul might have asked, just some more specifics around the user fee, or even some, sort of ballparks around that would help me.
so more information about the obligation for the maintenance of.
Yeah,
our
so I'm
license.
so I'm just trying to figure out, if we join up with this program, what's our outside cost and what's our outside risk? And then, on the policies and procedures, what are we agreeing to participate in? So I think that would be helpful to me anyway. And I appreciate it. I'm sorry to drag you back here on the 6th, but.
And Joe, in advance, if we can get the information in advance, it's really helpful. And what I might, ask us all to do is that as we do get that additional follow-up information for Joe, if there are any unanswered questions, we get those back to you before the 6th so that we can hopefully take action on the 6th.
Okay, very
That
good.
would be great.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay, next on the agenda is the Board of Selectmen Code of Conduct, which probably looks familiar to you.
It looks a little familiar. Yeah.
Just as a means of introduction, 2 years ago, the Town Administrator Bylaw Committee, when it was formed, and Karen was one of the original members, and most recently served as the chair, the Town Administrator Bylaw Committee recommended that the board adopt a code of conduct, and that actually was adopted by the board on September 3rd, 2015, and it is one of many board kind of policies and procedures that we have, and all these documents are available on the town website. But just, it's kind of a new year with a new board, and I wanted to put it on the agenda to just give us an opportunity to reaffirm our commitment to this code of conduct. And I also just wanted to identify a couple of things that stood out to me, and I don't know if then either of my colleagues have any comments, additional comments, but this code of conduct is a guide to inform and govern our behavior toward each other, toward employees and volunteers, other government officials, and the people of Hingham. It says, in the exercise of our authority, we commit ourselves to the faithful execution of the laws of the Commonwealth and the bylaws of the town, and to the implementation of town meeting decisions. We will strive to conduct ourselves in a collegial and professional manner, mindful that our guiding principle is to act in the best interests of the town after thorough preparation and careful consideration of relevant facts and circumstances, and mindful also that there may be good faith disagreements over where the best interests of the town may lie in any particular decision. We will strive to be the standard bearers of civil and productive discussion in our local governance. The Code of Conduct goes on to talk about standards of civility. It talks about the exercise of board authority. It emphasizes that all decisions of the board are made in public session, and just as tonight, those are ordinarily broadcast by HCAM. The code speaks to conducting town business, abiding by the open meeting law, posting meetings, and following the open meeting law. It also talks about relations with the town administrator and other town employees. One thing that stands out for me is, I'm just going to read from this, we will respect and support the administrative chain of command. An individual member cannot make decisions for the board, so we must work as a group to marshal the resources of the town to address citizens' concerns and needs. In practice, this means that in the event an individual member has a question or receives a complaint from citizens or others, we will ordinarily work with the town administrator to get the answers to our questions. Sometimes we get a letter, we get an email that comes to a member of the board. Citizens often hear from Mr. Alexiadis or Mr. Mayo. That is our process. We also, the Code of Conduct speaks to relations with members of the public. And again, just one thing that I will read for this, that with respect to specific operational concerns, citizens initially communicate directly with town employees or with the town administrator. So that's typically how that's done. And then I'm just going to read the closing piece because I think it speaks for me and everybody else. It is truly a pleasure to serve as a member of the Board of Selectmen for the town of Hingham. You, the citizens of the town, have placed your faith in us to serve in the best interests of the entire community. This code is an expression of our expectations of one another and serves as our promise to you that we will strive to the best of our ability to fulfill our duties as a board in accordance with the highest standards of governance set by our predecessors since the founding of Hingham in 1635. Karen or Paul, I don't know if either of you had any additional comments on the code.
No, actually none. I think it's good you brought it out and just kind of did a little shake off there, because it's good to be reminded of what we try to adhere to generally, but hearing it and seeing it in black and white and hearing it is helpful. I'm sure that's not going to be a problem with us.
Yeah, and I'd just like to say, you know, it was truly an honor to work with the TA Bylaw Committee in drafting this code. I think it represents best practices in municipal governance. I think it frankly represents best practices in corporate governance these days and in nonprofit governance. And, you know, what it is an effort to do is to set forth expectations as between the three of us, between and among the three of us, the Board of Selectmen with town staff and other volunteers. And with you, the public. And, you know, I think in Mary's reading of that language, it caused me to reflect, because, you know, that committee was made up of really fine citizens who have volunteered here in Hingham for a long time and brought that longevity to, you know, to drafting, I think, what is an essential document. And it's Tom Carey, Charlie Costello, David Pace, And then for me, really, the words of Nelson Ross ring true in this document. So, you know, as Mary said, it is both an honor and a privilege to sit in this seat. And, you know, I think the three of us will work very hard to abide by the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. And again, as Mary suggested, this is not unlike other boards, commissions, and committees in this town that establish, you know, kind of operating rules and procedures and expectations. And you know, I'm pleased to serve, and I'm pleased to abide by the code of conduct.
Questions or comments from the audience? Okay. We have a couple of additional votes to be taken. The first one is an amendment to the easement agreement with the trustees of the Back River Condominium Trust. Tom, did you
Yep.
want to?
If you just, I mean, do you have any specific questions, or?
I have none.
Do you maybe want to just, for the viewing public, just give a synopsis of what this is about?
If we're gonna do that, I would ask,
Sure,
counsel to-
okay, that's fine.
I just don't want
wasn't
him to
sure-
speak.
No, that's fine. Susan, thank you. I wasn't sure who to look to.
Susan Murphy, I'm Special Real Estate and Land Use Counsel. The town had a land swap transaction back in 2006, approximately, related between the town and the developer of the Back River condominiums. As part of that transaction, there were easements granted back and forth. There was a whole process that involved the National Park Service because the land had deed restrictions on it. There was a lot of documentation that went back and forth between the National Park Service. And at the time, the town administrator, Selectmen, council believed that all the I's had been dotted and the T's had been crossed. But in late 2013, the National Park Service, in response to questions it had received, asked us to walk through everything that happened, kind of revisit the whole transaction. And in the process, there were easements identified that needed additional consent of the National Park Service. They felt that the easements probably were more expansive than they needed to be. After review at the second floor with the permitting departments to make sure that the condominium would not be adversely affected by any of these decisions, and 3 years of discussions on a number of issues related to the park, we came to a modified kind of easement grant that was then reviewed by myself and Mr. Alexiadis with the trustees of the condominium. And this is the form of the document of the amended easement that the National Park Service approved. And they said if this document gets signed by the town and the trustees, they would consent to the remaining easements, which is a document that would be necessary to remove any potential cloud on the title for the condominium units. So we had delivered, the trustees had previously executed and delivered this to the town, and now the Board of Selectmen just need to accept and execute it. And then we're required to record it and provide evidence to the National Park Service that has been completed. And then we'll have satisfied all of the National Park Service requirements.
Thank you. Karen, any questions?
I just say, don't you hate it when you have to go back and make sure that all the T's have been crossed and the I's have been dotted? I recall this coming up in discussions early in the advisory committee term in the early 2000s. So I think this happens to us from time to time, right, where we have to go back and just make sure we've got the correct paper trail.
Right. Yep, that's
Questions from the audience? Okay, would Paul like to make a motion?
I'll entertain I'll move that the board vote to accept, execute, and record an amendment to easement agreement with the trustees of the Back River condominium in the form executed and delivered by said trustees on March 9, 2017.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Susan, thank you.
Thank you.
Tom, we have a reserve fund for the fire department.
Yep, so several months ago, there was a fire in town. Fire department responded. There was an oil leak from the oil tank in the basement, I believe, while the guys were down there. The fire department personnel were down there. And their turnout gear was soaked in this oil. They tried to get it out through commercial cleaners, through their own efforts, and were unable to do so. Subsequently, it had to be replaced. They are asking for a reserve fund transfer in the amount of $25,000 to cover the cost of replacing it. They have, as part of routine and is normally done elsewhere, the cost of the turnout gear is being requested from the insurance company, from the homeowner. And those letters have all been sent. So we anticipate receiving $26,106 in return from the insurance company for the cost of the turnout gear. But the reserve fund transfer request only needs to be for $25,000.
And so some of this is timing related until
That's right.
until the insurance company takes action.
Exactly.
Questions?
Nope.
Questions from the audience? Would you like to make a motion?
Sure. I move to recommend a transfer from the reserve fund to the fire department uniform account in the amount of $25,000.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and we have a,
So I just wrote out some language. It didn't make the vote list. I just wrote out some language.
special
Yeah.
license.
Oh,
Oh,
I thought you were
We
going
need
by
to
the...
extend the lease
Oh.
of the train park.
yep, thank you. Yep, I will accept a motion. So for the tree and park barn, we need to, you're requesting that we extend that lease for about 60
Well,
days.
60 days. Just in reality, we probably only need about 15, but just to be safe, we had a cesspool failure over there that we're trying to replace the septic with. That design process is underway now, and as a result, we've just recently got the quote for that. We need to begin negotiations on the new lease. If that takes anything beyond May 31st, we would be in violation of the lease, and we're meeting again on June 6th. So, just to be safe, I say 60 days.
So moved.
Any questions?
I mean, Mr. Orr's here. Do you have any concerns?
It's wonderful. I'm Dick Orr. I'm the tenant in the building. I'm just delighted that things are moving forward.
Great.
So,
Okay, I'll accept a motion to extend the lease for the tree and park barn located at 8 Short Street through to Wednesday, July 19th, 2017.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and I'll accept a motion to approve the issuance of a special one-day wine and malt beverages license to Sue Bush on behalf of Hingham Maritime Center for the Party on the Wharf fundraiser to be held at Barnes Wharf on Saturday, June 10th, 2017, from 7:30 PM to 10:30 PM.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Selectmen Town Administrator reports. Tom?
I do. So, the town staff is working diligently towards the direction from town meeting to come up with a program for Bear Cove Park off-leash walking permit program. We've had 3 staff meetings on it. We have received feedback from all parties, including the Bear Cove Park Committee and the Share Bear Cove Group. In addition, I anticipate getting a draft version of this to the Board of Selectmen within a day or two for your review and comment back. Upon receipt of those comments, I will draft a new, I don't want to call it a final version, a new version of the program to be issued to the public for comment. And hope to have all of that subsequently done prior to June 6th meeting for your consideration, or shortly thereafter, if not the June 6th meeting, but hope for the June 6th meeting. That's the plan.
And just to clarify, you've had all stakeholders at the table.
I do.
For this meeting?
Yes, the police department, the town clerk's office, who's this entire program is falling on her shoulders, and she's graciously accepting it. Yeah, the Bear Cove Park Group, the Share Bear Cove Group, and on.
Great.
So, in town council, legal is involved in every step of the way. Yep.
Great.
In addition, June 3rd at 9 a.m., the FOSS dedication, long-awaited FOSS dedication for Congressional Medal of Honor winner Seaman Herbert Foss is being held down at the Intermodal Center in the shipyard. And again, that's June 3rd at 9 a.m. That's all I have.
I'd like to thank Jay McGrail and the members of the Country Club, as well as the 4th of July Committee for the successful golf tournament that was held yesterday at the Country Club. I can tell everybody that Tom can hit a ball 300 yards. So,
Not without pain later.
it helped us. It helped our score, let me just leave it at that. Battle of Grape Island, Sunday. Love to see you there. So just go to the website and get the details, but, oh, yes,
Read
the journal, too.
Yeah. Always read the journal.
Always the journal. Thank you, Carol. So look forward to seeing everybody there.
Karen?
Three things. I got to ring the bell at the farmer's market to open the season. It's it was so exciting, and it was really fun to be there and to see merchants new and old, and people were really excited to start, and it was a rainy day, so it can only get better. I, too, really enjoyed the golf tournament. Jay McGrail and his staff did a wonderful job. The 4th of July Parade Committee and all those volunteers were outstanding. And the new golf carts that we just borrowed to buy were fabulous. So really, really, the course is in fabulous shape. And Jay was saying, you probably know, they're hosting a women's U.S. Open golf qualifier. So it says a lot about, I think, the caliber of that course. So it takes a golfer like Tom Mayo, I guess, to
Driver, not a golfer.
And then, last but not least, like my colleagues, we've been participating in flag displays on the graves of our servicemen and women in our cemeteries around town in preparation for Memorial Day. I know that there are several volunteer groups, the Hingham High seniors, several of the sports teams, our churches are all taking part in what I think is a wonderful tribute to the men and women who've served our country so unselfishly. And it just, when you do it, like you both have, you do pause and reflect on the lives lost for all of us. So it was really a great experience, and I know other folks around town are taking time to do the same thing. So I appreciate that, and appreciate Keith German and the Veteran Service Office for coordinating all of that, and the Veterans Council.
Also have three things. Yesterday, there was a ceremony here at Town Hall for Peace Officers Memorial Day. I was honored to take part in that and thank the police department, the fire department, Keith German, members of the Veterans Council. The rain had stopped, so it was made it all the more enjoyable. Karen mentioned that flags are being planted in advance of Memorial Day. The town's annual Memorial Day celebration will take place on Monday, Memorial Day at 11 o'clock here in Town Hall. Always a really special occasion, and we invite...
Is it up at the center or at Town Hall?
I believe it's here.
It's usually the center.
Okay, it's the center. Thank you, thank you. The voice from the back of the curtain says the center. Okay, we'll need to check the Hingham Journal for where this is. Carol will set us all straight. And lastly, and I believe something will be in the Hingham Journal, if not tomorrow, next week, but we have set aside 4 evenings for talent bank interviews, and those will be interviews with the board and with the moderator. One evening, there will be about a 45-minute open house, which is an opportunity to come and hear a little bit about the volunteer process, to ask questions. And then what the board and the moderator will do is we schedule 15-minute interviews with any interested candidates. And we would welcome and invite anyone who's interested in volunteering for the town. We've already gotten a number of applications, and we know that this town really does run on volunteers, so we thank you in advance for considering that. And then just the last thing, our next meeting will be Tuesday, June 6th. The board is going to endeavor to meet on Tuesdays at the request of staff, and as it gets into budget season, better coordinates with, in particular, our advisory committee colleagues. So with that, we are actually going to enter into executive session. The purpose for tonight's executive session is to discuss litigation and potential litigation involving Aquarion and litigation involving Juan Penn Florentine. Holding this discussion in open session would have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the town. The board will not resume open session this evening at the conclusion of the executive session, so we'll take a roll call vote to enter executive session.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Good evening.